My name is Sara Smith-Silverman. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a professor of history at American River College, and today's date is September 8th, 2023. So let's start off by establishing the basics. What's your full name? What are your pronouns? And what's your date of birth?
Do I need to say my actual full name or can I say my preferred name?
You can say whatever name you want to say. So
Okay.
the name that you use. Yeah.
So my preferred name is Ciel Ramos and I am 20 years old. My pronouns are she, her, they, them.
When were you born?
I was born in 2003.
So tell me a little about yourself. What are your interests and hobbies? What do you like to do?
So that's quite the question that I blink out. My hobbies are playing video games, drawing, and reading and writing. Though most of my time is spent on playing video games. Like this jacket, as it's based on this character from Genshin Impact. His name is Xiao, and I really like him because I don't know. It's just a kind of vibes with his personality. It was a bit like angsty and edgy, even though that's technically not what he is. It's just got like trauma. The whole backstory thing you can expect from a video game character. When I first played Genshin Impact, it was roughly when because it's a gacha game, so you need to like quote unquote summon the characters. So I had you need to summon the characters. You need like a currency. So I had worked really hard in the game to build as much of the in-game currency in order to summon the character, and I got really lucky because there is a pity system because it's essentially gambling. There's a pity system, so if you don't get the character within like a certain amount of summons, you're guaranteed that character. But for me, with Genshin, the the pity it's guaranteed at 90 and it's only 50-50. So I got really lucky when I pulled him at like 50 pulls and I got him specifically because it was like literally 50-50 and either getting him because he's a limited time character or getting a different character. So yeah, and he had like this whole backstory thing where like just went through so much. He changed his names and whatever, and just overall the typical tragic character that I just really liked, even though I don't necessarily identify with that. So yeah.
So what made you get into video games? Why do you like video games?
Uh, uh, I first got a PlayStation 3 when I was in elementary school. I don't remember the exact grade, maybe like the third or fourth grade. And so it was like Mortal Kombat. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was just like smashing the buttons. And then things happened. I no longer had this PlayStation. So I fell back to reading books up until the sixth grade, where I first got my first phone and I started playing the story based games on there. And then from there, my mom remarried. So, and her husband, he's a huge total gamer. So he brought the Xbox 360, and from there, I started like playing the games on the 360. I think one of the first games I played was Skyrim, although that didn't last very long because I got scared by the zombies in the game. They're called Draugr because it's a kind of Viking-esque game. So I started playing the other games like Assassin's Creed, and Assassin's Creed is just filled with like all these history things. And I really like history, so it was like fun learning about the tidbits, like all the small things.
The details?
Yes, like you play as the main character and like it's going through the ropes of what actually happened in history, even though it's not technically like historically accurate. I think I started off with the second game, which apparently is like one of the better games in the series. And that's the only one that I ever actually completed in the series overall. Because I tried playing the third game and it was like based on the American Revolution. That didn't really like tickle my fancy, so I'm like, yeah, no. Then I tried the first game. I think I got halfway, but then the Xbox One came out, So I tried to transfer my progress to the Xbox One, and then it didn't transfer. So I just dropped it because I had to restart all over again. And then just from there, I just got into more and more video games.
Do you find community online?
Kind of like
Like friends?
friends. Yes and no. I would make friends, but then they wouldn't last very long, so I wouldn't consider like full true friendships. Although I did manage to make like one group of friends online that I actually like still talk to after like so long. Cause I usually like make friends with like people who like the same interests as me. So like the first group of friends I had, it was based on this just mobile game. Didn't last very long. I no longer talk to them, but I did talk with that friend group for like a few months. And then I made this new group of friends over this different mobile game, and and I think what kept the friendship going is the fact that we share like other similar interests in different other mobile games and video games in general.
Have you found other queer people through gaming?
Yeah, I think the games that I play specifically, they kind of it's like a common niche for like the people who like basically interested in mind things are queer. They just somehow gravitate towards that. At least like with the first mobile game, I don't know. I didn't know like if they were queer or not, but definitely with the second one, they were. Like all of them, I think there's like 5 people in this friend group I have. Sorry, my voices.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Fine.
So like I talked to them a little bit more with these people in this other mobile game. And I think it's because of how the story is structured or something. I don't really know, but like somehow it just gravitated all these like-minded people, right? So I talked to them for a little bit, and then I find out that they're like all of them are queer to an extent. So I was like, yippee!
Yeah, it was in one of my classes in a queer studies class, and students were really bonding over all of the similar or same video games that they were playing. Um, okay, anything else you want to say about your interests and hobbies and what do you like to do outside of school?
Outside of school, well, I wanted to mention the fact that well, it's technically still kind of school-based, but like I still have the same childhood friends that I have since elementary school. So we like grew up together and we developed like the same interests, and coincidentally, we're all queer as well.
It's funny how queer people flock to other queer people before they even know that they're queer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so where did you grow up and where do you live now?
I grew up, well, I was born and raised in Sacramento, and this is still Sacramento, so I've just been here my entire life. Though I was raised specifically in the South Sacramento area, and right now I live in like the Meadowview area, which is like a slightly demographic, but like it's well, I stay holed up in my room all day, so it's like it's not much difference in me like going out or whatever.
What's the difference between the two neighborhoods?
I specifically lived in Lemon Hill, and so there's like these apartments. I don't know like what's the deal with them, but like my apartment complex specifically, it was filled with like all these elderly Asian people.
Mhm.
So all my friends growing up, they were all Asian. So like and like the elementary school nearby, I think it was like 80% Asian. I swear. So all my friends, they were Asian. I think there was like only a small handful of kids that were Mexican in my elementary school, but I never really got along with them. Just primarily with like the Asian kids. So in the new area, it's a bit of like melting pot. So like I have like neighbors that are black. My next door neighbors are Asian. The other next door neighbors are Mexican. So it's like everything, I guess.
So where do you currently attend college? What do you study?
I currently go to American River College. Yeah, American River College. and my major is funeral service education. That's like literally the name. And I want to be an embalmer, but I think with like how much they make, like how much money they make, because if they don't make a lot of money, I might have to do like dual licensing. So I will have to be both an embalmer and a funeral director, so I can actually like make a living.
And what made you decide to study funeral services and embalming?
I've always been interested in like dead things as a kid. Well, specifically started off with dinosaurs. So I wanted to be the like a paleontologist, just digging around looking for dinosaur bones. And then I had my interest in like the anime and video games, and like the anime I was watching at the time. One of them is Black Butler. It's like there's a whole lot of death in there, but one of the characters was specifically an Undertaker. So like that already like plants the seeds that like that can be a thing. And then I got into like this other video game, well, mobile game, and one of the characters was an embalmer, and I got really taken with that character in particular. I don't know why. It's just I guess like the symbolism that he had going on. And then going through middle school, high school, I was like thinking, forensic pathologist, because I get to like study the diseases and whatever that like gathering like dead tissue, identifying what's wrong with them, all that. But then I realized that takes like 10 years. I was like, yeah, no, I'm not smart enough to like retain all that information in my head. So I was like, okay, what else can I do? Then I realized like, oh wait, there's funeral service. I can just probably like do that instead. And I want specifically to be an embalmer because you don't really talk with the people. And I don't know if I would be a good funeral director to begin with because I get really emotional. So like I would probably be in the room crying with the families if I ever did become one. So I need to somehow learn how to control my, I don't know, like the sadness I feel for the families. Because I attended 2 funerals in my life. The first one, it was in middle school. I didn't even know the person really well. They were like technically a childhood friend because like families, whatever. But like I only started crying because I saw the other people crying. And then with the second funeral, it was somebody that I actually knew. And I cried even harder because this time I actually knew the person. And like nobody, not many other people were crying, but I knew the person, so I was like, I started like uncontrollably crying, and I tried to like rein that in, like it was like really hard. So I couldn't stop until I couldn't like no longer cry. So yeah, but like embalming doesn't make a lot of money, so I'm like, what are my options? I need to like learn how to control those emotions, or otherwise I'm just not gonna make a living. Or I need to like look elsewhere. But like I'm already like dead set on funeral services. So like yeah.
Well, I don't think you should count forensic pathology out, but we could talk about that off camera. Okay, so are you a full time or a part time student?
I think I'm a full time. I 12ish, 14ish units, especially with the addition with the language class I'm taking. And only because since I have like the childcare, I can't really get a job because the I think most jobs they're looking for like a 9 to 5 more or less. And I'm taking the kid at that time, so I have nothing else to do in my free time, so I might as well just take another class and all that.
Can you explain what you mean, the childcare thing?
Childcare. I started taking care of my sister when she was like like baby. So what me and my mom did, I would like go to school. She would stay home with the kid. I get out of school, she picks me up, leaves me at home with the kid, and then she would go to work. So for the past 4 years, yeah, she's 4. Um, I would just be like taking care of my sister, cause childcare. I think like you're like getting like outside help. It's like a lot. It's very expensive. Like, I've heard people like saying like 5,000 for 4 kids or something. I don't know. It's just really expensive. And like the kid, she's an easy kid, so like I'm like okay, I'll just sit here, hold her, and just watch whatever. Yeah, and then like COVID happened. Like my sister, she was born in 2019. Then COVID happened like 2020-ish. So like it fit in nicely somehow with like what was going on. And then I graduated in 2021. Classes were like online, so I could still take care of the kid at the same time I was like doing my classes. So and then college was still like mostly online, so I'm like, okay, I can still take care of the kid at the same time as I'm going to college. So yeah.
How long have you been at ARC for?
ARC, I'm going into my third year at the moment. Yeah, this is my third year.
Have you been full time that entire time?
I would say so. I don't know how many units it qualifies, but I would consider it like full time technically.
Yeah, 12 units I think is
Mm.
full time. Okay, so can you tell me about how you identify with regard to your social identities, broadly speaking? So, race, ethnicity, sexuality, gender, disabilities, religion, and so on.
So, race wise, I would consider myself Hispanic because my mother and I guess technically my biological father, they were both Mexicans from rural Mexico. So my mom, she crossed the border while like literally pregnant with me. So it's so like literally made in Mexico, I guess. So yeah, so but like then my upbringing, I don't know if it will be considered Mexican or whatever. So I have a hard time identifying with the Mexican label. So I just consider myself Hispanic because all I do is just I speak the language and I eat the food and I don't really do anything else that's considered Mexican. As for like everything else, like my gender, it's like fluctuates between like kind of want to be in the middle or like I want to be more feminine. So that's why like she, they pronouns, Um, for my sexual orientation, I would say the more or less like the best quote unquote label would be a romantic bisexual. I don't experience romantic attraction towards anybody, but I still feel sexual attraction towards both. Not both. There's more than two genders, but like the feminine, masculine spectrum thing. So yeah.
And you mentioned a stepfather or two?
Yeah, I technically had two stepfathers. My first stepfather, I consider him as like my actual father since he raised me for a good 10 years. And my current stepfather, I just call him stepfather because it's easier and faster to say than my mother's husband because he's not really a stepfather to me because like I think he's only like 10 years older than me. So he's like kind of like a weird like relationship of like being like a friend and older brother. Cause like he was there, he like helped my mom like get out of like the trashy apartment that we were in, and he also introduced me to video games or whatever. And he's just like over a chill guy, but like I wouldn't see him as my father figure. Like he doesn't really have that authority over me. Only my first stepfather does, and like but like I don't really talk to him anymore because
So I was asking you about your social identities, broadly speaking, and I think we left off, and you were talking about your stepfather.
stepfather.
Guess I was curious to know, were both of your stepfathers also Mexican?
Yeah. Well, my first stepfather, well, I should probably just refer to him as father because he raised me for 10 years. I think his family specifically is from Puebla, Mexico, right? So he's like full on Mexican. So, but like, I remember like I would speak English to him. So like, generally like what you want to do with like if you're like well, you got like one culture in the house and a different culture at like school or whatever. Like the best thing to do is like speak one language at home, like the native language, and then the main language like English outside. My dad, he did not do that. He spoke to me always in English. So as a result, my Spanish is like I understand, I can speak decent, but it's like literally just like conversational Spanish. and I can't get into like the government, nifty, whatever, the technical things.
Like you can talk about day-to-day stuff more easily.
Yeah, I can be like, oh, I went to school. I just learned about that things. That's it. But just really basic things mostly. And like if I try to go into like deeper things, I would always like find myself like at a loss for words. Like literally, like I don't know. Like I'll have like the idea of what to say in English, but then I can't say that in Spanish. So like I'm really limited with my Spanish.
Why do you think he chose to speak English to you?
I guess I don't really know. Cause like cause my sister, well, she's technically my half sister, but so like she is his biological daughter. He's always talking. Wait, no, I just realized he doesn't. He talks to her like 50-50, like sometimes in Spanish, sometimes in English. Then I think he does that with his current stepkids as well. It's like English, but mostly because they're not Mexican, his stepkids. So I don't know why he chose to speak to me in English. Just did.
Is he more fluent in Spanish than English?
He is more fluent in Spanish, so it's just kind of odd. Like it is what it is. I can't really question him about it or anything. But
Oh, sorry. Are you still in touch with him?
technically, cause like my sister, she's 14. Yeah, 14. So like I talk to him every once in a while when he like comes to pick her up. Like what we would do. She's like really late. She's always late. So whenever my dad comes, I would like go out and just strike up a conversation to buy my sister some time. So like I would talk to him like it's 50-50, like literally like Spanish and English, just talking to him and his wife.
So you mentioned sexuality, gender, any disabilities, mental health stuff you want to mention, or religion?
I don't have any disabilities. Really, it's like not yet, because life happens.
Wait, what happened?
Well, not yet, because like you don't know
Oh.
what life has in store for you. Like you can become disabled at like literally any moment. So like, well, right now I don't have any, but like who knows? When I'm like 15, baby, I don't know. I break my leg and then wheelchair, bro. Or I don't. That's the best example.
I hope that doesn't happen.
Hopefully it
Or
doesn't.
at least maybe I'm 43, so let's push the age up a little bit more.
Or like when you're 88, like oh no, you have a fall.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can literally become disabled at any time. So that's how I say it, like not. It's either like not yet or just like at the present you're sure, but in the future you're not. So yeah. As for mental health, I think I'm fine. I notice that like when I'm really like hungry, I get very anxious, and I'm like hungry like often, unfortunately.
Okay, well, if you get hungry, remember I have a bar for you.
Yeah. No, it's just like when I have to like do things like driving, like it's a big moving thing, and you can't account for like the other drivers. I'm like I get scared that like oh my god I'm gonna get into an accident. So like literally today I took my car to this train station, and then I took the train to get to here because I didn't want to like drive my car all the way over here because I get really nervous. But yeah.
So religion?
Religion, my family, they're technically Roman Catholic, typical for like any other Mexican family. Personally, I think there is a God, but like, I don't really like the church because like, it's a church and they're not known for being nice towards queer people. Like, my uncle's queer, and I like overheard my like mom talking to someone, and then she like brought up like how like the church was like not being nice to her, because like she had me, out of wedlock, and then my sister, she's born in married.
Wedlock.
Yeah, that. So yeah, so she was like getting crap about me because like I technically like I don't have a father listed on my birth certificate. So she was like getting crap from the church about that, and then crap about the church about my uncle's sexuality because like he had a partner at the time, so like he couldn't really hide it. So, and I'm just like in the background, like, that's not a vibe. That's a no from me.
Did you grow up going to church?
Not really. My mom, she wanted me to get my, I think it's the first communion. So in middle school, for 2 years, I had to attend these church classes, and they mandated that I had to go to a church so I can actually get my first communion. But like before that, I I probably went to church like once or twice, and after that, never. Mostly because my mom works on Sunday, so like I can't really go to church anyway. In any case, so it is what it is.
Okay, so you mentioned that your sexual orientation is aromantic and bisexual.
Mhm.
Can you maybe talk about what that means to you?
Well, I would say it's like pretty literal. Like I feel attraction towards the masculine and feminine people, but I don't feel any romantic attraction towards them. I've tried like in my childhood to like quote unquote like have a crush, but like most of the time I just found the people pleasing to the eye, and that's it. I never really pursued romantic relationships. My mom finds that weird because like my sister, she has a boyfriend at the moment. So she's like telling me like, God, I'm gonna have like a nun for a daughter. Cause like I don't get it. I don't have any relationship with anyone, and she knows I'm queer. So she's like, you don't even have a girlfriend either.
Well, there's a long history of nuns
Oh
and intimacy. So.
yeah, but yeah, but like like I've expressed like attraction to this one person. It was like this pretty person. They came to my work, and I asked them for their number. Like I wanted to see like, do I like still like not experience romantic attraction or whatever. So like I wanted to see like if that like still fits me. And then the person ghosted me.
Oh.
And then but then my mom saw that because like it was at our work. So my mom was like, "Oh my god, my daughter is normal. She does have attraction towards this group of people," and I'm just like, because it's like a typical mom thing.
Um, so how did you figure out that you were aromantic and bisexual? Or can you talk a little bit about your coming out experience?
Um, I think I heard the word bisexual or homosexual specific. Or, I don't really remember. It was one of those two. In elementary school, some kid came up to me and he was like, "Are you fine with your friend being this sexuality?" I'm like, "What's that?" And he's like, "Oh, like liking the same gender." And I'm like, "What's the problem with that?" Because like I know I wasn't raised otherwise, to like think like that straight things is like it has to be straight. Probably because my uncle's queer, so like he's been openly queer for like I don't know how long, but like my mom, she never said anything against it or for it. It's just like it is what it is. Like relationships are relationships. So I didn't like think much of it. I'm like, what's wrong with that? And like the kids, I don't know what he said, but like that's the first time I heard it. And I think I like probably like began searching around on the internet when I first got my phone. And I'm like, okay, I'm bisexual. And I think I came out to my mom as bisexual during the 8th grade. She was straightening my hair, so I wanted to say something like, well, my hair's straight, but I'm not. But like, this woman, she speaks Spanish. So at the end, I just said like, oh, I'm bisexual. And my mom was like, okay, chill. And I'm like, okay.
That was your mom's response. She said, okay,
Yeah.
chill.
Well, not really, but like, it's like, that's the essence of her response. And yeah, so
How old were you at the time?
I was on the 8th grade.
I was in eighth grade.
I think 13 ish. Yeah, 13. I came out at 13, but I knew since the 6th grade.
Oh, so you knew when you were pretty young.
Yeah. Mostly because I was exposed to it because like a classmate told me to it. So like that's when I'm like, oh, okay, chill.
Pretty open minded for a sixth grader.
Yeah, well, I just read a lot of books. Maybe that's why. I don't know. But yeah, I think 13. I also like knew I was aromantic, or at least like I identified with that label at that time. I still do. And but like I never like really told many people outside of my like close friend group. Because what I've seen online is people they don't really like think that being aromantic is as a legit thing. And speaking with my mother, I don't think she would understand it, so I never came out to her as a romantic. So like the only people who know are literally just my group of friends. And yeah, it's literally just them and like maybe the online group of friends I have because they're like very queer. They're much more like queer than my childhood friends. But yeah, it's just uh, it's like it's easier to come out as bisexual than it is to come out as a romantic. I've seen, or at least like the interactions I've seen online. So yeah,
Yeah, bisexuality is more legible to people, easier for them to understand.
yeah, because like I guess people can't understand someone not having romantic attraction. And I guess also because people they think romantic and sexual attraction being as like two in one when it's not. It's like I guess like similar to like how like people don't understand like asexuality. So yeah.
So you said that you use she and they pronouns, and you explained it a little bit, but is there anything else you want to say about how you came to identify using she and they pronouns and what that means to you?
Um Sometimes whenever I look in the mirror and like I see like, my body, I just kind of like don't like how feminine it can be at times. Other times like, yeah, it's cool, and other times like, let's not do that. So like it fluctuates. So I'm like decided like okay, so like she, they fit me, but like not he. Because although I do like think about it like how would be better if I was like if I was a guy, but like never like really stuck with me. So it's just I like being in the middle more often than being like more feminine. So like I bought a binder actually. I am not wearing it right now, but like I just bought it so I like can feel like more secure in my body, I guess. And whenever I wear it, I get so happy. Like my chest is so flat, and I can wear these blouses without doing it like the weird stretchy thing. It's just really nice.
When
Although
did you get your binder?
I got when I probably like got my job, because like I actually had like money to spend, right? So that was maybe like 18 ish. I don't wear it often, but like yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's just I just wear it every once in a while because it does like because I'm like a bit on the bigger side, so it's like a little feels weird, but maybe because I don't wear it often. But yeah,
So do you share your pronouns with people?
just online and at school because I did mostly online schooling and like Canvas has this thing where you can put your pronouns, so that's where I put them. And like my friends or they already know. I don't know if they actually use those pronouns for them, but like I don't really care. It's like she, they're like the same to me. But yeah, I always shared it with like any online community like that I like on Discord because they will have like these little templates and then they'll have like these things like these roles where you can choose and will display your pronouns on your profile. So like I always chosen like she, they because like it gives you the option to choose more than one. So I'm like, okay, I will choose both. But though, like in public, out with like other people talking, no, not really, because like I don't know, it just doesn't get brought up because you're like talking face to face. You're not gonna refer to the other person in third person. So yeah.
Do you ever feel concerned about sharing your pronouns, about how people will react?
Ah, how people will react. I guess thankfully because I'm like holed up in my room all the time. In real life, I don't really have to like worry about it. Online, that's a slightly different story, but I usually like I don't really venture out of like the groups that I'm a part of. So like I think on my profile, like on Instagram or whatever, it doesn't I think it does have my pronouns, but like nobody like really checks them or whatever. So like online is like they can't really harass me. And if they did, it's online. Like in my opinion, like for me specifically, I had just someone on the other side of the screen. They only are this bold because they can't really like go after me like physically. So like I just waved that off.
Have you had that experience? Or
Being
people?
harassed
Yeah.
about my pronouns? No. But like I like to start arguments on the internet over it. So it probably will happen one day.
And what about in the classroom?
In the classroom,
Like in-person classroom, I guess.
um, I don't think I've ever been in a or at least in high school. I don't think we ever like really like shared our pronouns. And neither did we like in like my funeral class. But how do I say this? Nope, but we didn't really introduce ourselves either. All we said was like our names. Yeah. Or maybe I could be forgetting because I remember we said our names. And I don't remember if we did share our pronouns or whatever. I think we shared our location or like general like area, so like carpooling and whatever. I don't remember if we did pronouns though. But yeah. But like, the we also have like shared classes online and all that. So you can like some people they elected to like put their pronouns or whatever. So it's like kinda like 50-50 oddly enough, I guess.
And how many in-person classes have you taken?
Um all my in-person classes have been my funeral service classes. So like my first 2 years, it was all completely online. And this year, 2023, I started in January and I went like, Tuesday, Thursday to my funeral class. That was like literally like the only in-person class I have. And even right now, it's literally just my funeral person. It's weird phrase, weird. My funeral service class that I have in person.
And would you like it if your professor shared their pronouns and asked students to, if they feel comfortable, also share their pronouns during introductions?
Um, in some way, kind of like I don't like I don't think we should like have to like explicitly say it, but like if there's like a name card with like pronouns underneath, I feel like that would be way better. So I feel like it would be like too time consuming to say like I'm this, that, this, that, this, that. So like I'm someone who wants to get in out quickly. So but like if there was like little placeholder, yeah. It would be like easier to like know what to like, oh I'll use this for you, that for you, all that jazz.
So why do you think it would be important for your professor to do something like that, to create some space, whatever it is, for you to share your pronouns?
Kind of like it's
Like, how would it make you feel? I know you said I don't think you said you haven't had the experience of your professor actually asking for pronouns
hmm.
or sharing their own pronouns. Is that right?
Like I think like literally just on campus, that's like the only time where they have the pronouns, like just next to their name.
So, do you think it would feel meaningful to you if you were in a class, perhaps one of your funeral service classes, and the professor shared their pronouns and asked you if you feel comfortable to also share yours in whatever format that was?
I think probably I would like that because then it would tell me that this is like a safe place for like queer people. And like visibly my classmates, like a handful of them are like visibly queer. So like it will make me feel like assured that I'm like in a place where like I'm not gonna be like discriminated against in some way or fashion form. It's like I don't know, like I guess like a sense of solidarity and security.
Anything else you want to say about that? About pronouns in the classroom? That's usually something I come to later in the interview, but
Not that I can think of. I don't really like give much thought to it, honestly. Just it's a thing. Cool. That's it.
yeah, I think for different students it matters in different ways,
Mm.
depending on sort of how they feel about kind of being in the classroom and sharing stuff about themselves,
Mm.
and then also kind of their experience with getting misgendered too.
Mm.
Okay, so you talked some about your coming out experience. You said your mom was pretty affirming to you, or how would you put it? How would the way your mom reacted when you came out as bi?
I would say nonchalant, cause like again, her brother's queer, so she had to be accepting of him, cause like her brother raised her, cause she lost her own mother very young, like she was younger than 10. That's all I know. So she lost her mother really young. So she had her older brother to like take care of her and all that. So like I don't know like if she had to like go through like any issue like when it came to him specifically, but when it came to me, since she like probably like already went through like the whatever she had to go through to accept her brother or whatever, she was like, okay, my daughter's queer, just like my brother. That's okay.
Is your uncle in the United States?
Yes, he lives with me actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
are you too close?
Um, I would say so to an extent. He's always like going out and about. There's like a word for it in Spanish when like you're always like being like out and about, like callejero or callejera if you're like female, woman, whatever.
Kaya, out on the street.
Just
Is
like
that the reference, Kaya?
calle, that means
Oh,
street.
Kaya. Kaya,
Calle,
yeah.
like
Yeah.
like Cale, but the double L makes it like a Y, all that, yeah. So callejero, like at Olmo, I think it literally like Olmo means like the one on the streets or something like that. But yeah, he's always out with, I don't know if it's like committed relationship, but like he has a partner right now. And he's like always like hanging out with them or with his other friends who are, also queer. And then yeah, he's just always doing whatever, living his life, even though he's like almost 50. Just he's having a good time.
That's good.
Although he spends his money like really irresponsibly. But yeah.
Okay, so are there any other family members that you're out to?
Out to, well, just my immediate family, evidently. So that would be my mom, my stepfather, my uncle, because he lives with us, and my younger sister, the teenager. I specifically say teenager because I have two sisters. One of them's a teenager, the other one's still a toddler. So yeah. I think my cousin. mm, Yeah, I think he knows. I'm not too sure though, because I don't feel like the need to like explicitly come out every single time. I think he might know. I don't know if my aunt knows. And yeah, I think that's literally all. It's just my family, like the relatives that know.
And how have they responded?
Um, well, there's my uncle, so they're like, okay,
They're fine.
yeah. It's like, okay.
You mentioned that you're not out as aromantic to your family members.
Yeah.
What about gender stuff? Do you mention she, they? Do you talk about gender stuff at all?
No, not at all. I recently actually, I was sitting on the couch and like they were talking about like the whole drag queens like reading books to children. And I'm just sitting there, I'm like, oh no. And like they were like transphobic. Like they're like, oh, and they shouldn't be planting ideas to kids this young. I'm just sitting there like,
Wait, even your queer uncle?
cause he's cis, so like, so he's he's not trans or anything. So like they didn't like want the idea like like being trans in general. So I'm like, oh, okay. So like I took that as like, so I should probably like not come out to them as being like she, they. Cause like for the most part they just know me as like a tomboyish girl. Cause like I don't dress like overtly feminine or whatever. Just what's like quote unquote acceptable for like for being a girl. So yeah, so like I never like felt the need to like come out to them as like as a she, they. Mostly because I didn't think it was like important to do so, like because like my mom, she's always been like kind of hands free. Like I remember majority of middle school just being cooped up in my room, just on my phone reading fan fiction. That's my middle school experience. So it's just like I'm not that involved in my life, so like I never felt the need to like explain more than I should. But like hearing that the like explicitly that they were like against it, I'm just like, I should get out of here. Cause like I don't know. Cause like my mom, she said she'll have like unconditional love for me. But like, can she accept the idea that her daughter doesn't like have romantic attraction, or that she doesn't feel like necessarily like fully as a woman, or whatever binary she has in, because like she already accepted the fact that I'm tomboyish, but I know she would accept that I'm like more like agender or non-binary or what, or that, yeah. So I'm just keeping that on low profile on that.
So do you use either of those terms, agender or non-binary? Are you thinking about it?
And I'm like thinking about it. Like I think the most accurate label would be demigirl for like me specifically. But like I don't really like the that it says girl at the end. But like I saw the word demigender. I think that might be a little bit more accurate. But like overall, I don't like it. Just doesn't sit well like the phrase with me. So I just don't really use like a particular label to put like my gender identity. I just exist. I'm just a she they.
What does it feel like emotionally to have figured out your identity as queer? Do you feel like you're happy, and even empowered maybe in your identities?
I feel secure. Or at least like my major thing is just being secure, stability and whatever. Cause like I don't know, I felt like I didn't have that much security in my childhood, even though it was there, I think, but like I couldn't feel it. So like I just want to like feel secure. I want to be sure of things. So like so if I was like told like like, oh, you have to be like heterosexual 100%, you can't be anything else. If I was told that, I probably would have been like not as secure in my sexuality and gender orientation as I am right now. So yeah, it's just I don't know, it's just I'm like mostly like go with the flow for the most part. So like just being sure like yeah, I'm this, I'm that. It is what it is. It's just I vibe with it. Yeah.
What do you find to be the most challenging about being queer?
Being queer, I guess just being like kind of open, or like I've noticed that like how people have like this gaydar thing, quote unquote. Um I don't really I don't like trigger like set off like a like oh I'm like oh this person is queer. Like people don't realize I'm queer until like I tell them like outright. So I'm like sometimes questioning like am I queer enough? It's like and it's just like I'm not enough this, I'm not enough that. So it just makes me like think like am I really like what I am, or like what I say I am? It's like imposter syndrome just a little bit. Like I think I was at work. There was this trans woman. I'm not really too sure. They were definitely like queer, and they were like jokingly saying like talking about me and this other coworker I had, because like there was like I wouldn't say like chemistry, but like bro bonding. I That's the best way I can put it, because like evidently I don't I'm like I am it is what it is kind of person, right? I say that a lot. So like I can like just talk like really chill and whatever. So like I was having like kind of like a friendship with my coworker, just being like friends, whatever, bros being bros, even though I'm not technically a bro. Um and he was like just like saying like, oh, you're like into him, or you two are gonna end up together like this queer person, and I'm like, no, 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 I'm not into guys. Although I like I guess like I kind of like technically lied, but I only said that because I didn't want to be like, because I'm not out as a romantic, so it's easier to say like no, I'm not straight, I'm lesbian. It's easier to say that. So like the person, they were like, oh, I wouldn't have never expected that from you. You don't look like it. And I'm like sending her like, well, what does a lesbian look like? Or like what does a queer person look like? So like just I don't know. It's like that just made me feel like
I think that person's gaydar wasn't very good.
Probably.
You know how people have different sensitivities when it comes to being able to like suspect or detect queerness in other
Yeah.
folks. And so they might be good in some ways, but that doesn't mean that they are good in other ways.
Yeah. Yeah, cause like, and I'll take my funeral class as an example. Like some of us are like visibly like very queer, but then like others like you wouldn't like suspect it. So like, cause like I don't say I have a gay eye, cause like you literally don't know like the person like until they tell you it themselves. So like my classmate next to me, she's like very feminine. I used the wrong pronoun. They're very feminine. But like as I said, like you wouldn't suspect that like that they're like queer until like they tell you themselves. So I'm just sitting here next to my classmate. They dress very feminine, and like I love it for them. Like I like the style, what they have going on. But then the somehow eventually like I think we were talking about like in class about like the death certificate. So they brought up like, would they be like listed as non-binary on their death certificate? So like that's when I realized like, oh, they're non-binary. They use they them and all that. So like I wouldn't have like known that unless they like told me, themselves, because like they dress like so feminine. Like you wouldn't expect it. But like with my other classmates, like you can tell that they're like visibly queer, like from like how they have their hair. Like I think one of my classmates has like the wolf cut, like a mullet or something. So like you can tell like okay maybe they're queer. So yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say like some people you can kind of tell, but some other people you can't. But like in the end, you don't really know until they like tell you it themselves. So like for there to be like an idea like oh the queer people dress like this and that like it's true to an extent but not always.
So did you grew up pretty low income?
Um, with my dad, I wouldn't say it was low income, but like maybe like just like lower class, middle class kind of dealio. But then when like they separated, I would say it was more low income because I remember like one time like we just didn't have enough food or whatever. So yeah, and then like I was a bookworm, so I was like always trying to like buy like new books and whatever to read. I really love to read. And then my mom was like oh you can't spend any more money on books because we don't have money. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then like I already bought like some books from the book fair or like the book order. Yeah. And then like my Spanish is not the greatest. So she was like asking me like oh did you buy the books before or after I told you not to buy any more books? Accidentally I said after because I did not understand the word antes and después. Because antes means before and después means like after, right? So I told her después, and I'm like, and she got really mad at me. I'm like, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and I'm like, ugh.
What about your class status now? What does your mom do for work, and what do you do for work?
um, well, she still works the same jobs. Like she's literally been working the same job ever since she came here to America. So it's like still working at the fast food joint. I work with her only on Sundays because nobody wants to do Sundays, and I don't really like it honestly, but like I still do it because like I would like to have some form of income, however small. And I'm still like trying to like job hunt for like something that I can do on the side because like my spendings it's not
Yeah,
going.
you don't have that much money coming in.
Yeah, no, like I think my spendings would be like between like 300 400 bi-weekly, 2 weeks. My income is like $200. So like I try to stay within that range. But like I got like the FAFSA and whatever. So like sometimes I would have to dip into my savings to pay what I need. Most of the time it's like food. Like I'm always eating, not always eating out, but like just being out and about. It's like, and then
You said your income is 200. Is that every week, every 2 weeks?
every 2 weeks.
Okay. So yeah, you spend about 300 or more every 2 weeks, and then your income is
Just about,
200.
yeah. Then my mom gives me a little bit of money, so like that, so that like prolongs like how much I need to take out of my savings account.
Do you get CalFresh?
Yes.
Do you find that helpful or?
I would hope so because I'm not the one actually using it. My mom uses it.
Okay.
But
'Cause I
yeah.
know it's not that. I know it's helpful, but it's also not very generous.
Yeah, no, we don't get much off of it, but like whatever helps, it helps.
So you work at a fast food place part-time and
Yeah.
you're attending school full-time.
Mhm.
Are you out at work?
At work? No, because I don't really particularly care to come out at work. Like I'm only there like 1 day a week. Like I don't really know my coworkers all that well. It's like the most I think I said about myself is just like yeah, I like anime. Just one other coworker likes anime, so like we bond over the anime things.
Do you like customer service?
Yes and no. I prefer it over like the fryer because I get stressed out about what I need to put in the fryer, and there's not a lot of like space in the fryer because like we're slow, but then like it gets kind of busy, so like the fryers are full, and we still have so many orders. Like I prefer doing customer service over that. Customers, or at least like the area that we're in, they're like generally nice for the most part if I'm nice to them. And I have like this understanding of like, cause like we sometimes ask customers to like speak up, so then they like yell when they're like ordering the food, but it only sounds like they're angry only because they're yelling. But like they're not actually angry. They're just yelling. So like
You
I
mean
understand.
like the drive-through?
Yeah, like when you're taking your order at the speaker, it's really shoddy. It's not very good.
Have you worked other jobs?
No. I have just fast food so far. I would like to try other jobs, but like nobody's hiring me. It's like,
Well, you also take care of your sister
Yeah.
full-time and you're attending school full-time.
yeah, it's like I mean like specifically during the summer I didn't have like any classes, so I was like applying to jobs, but like still like no one like hired me. So like it's like oddly like really hard getting a job. Or at least like for me it is.
How do you like being a caregiver for your sister?
It's pretty calm. Like the normal day, it's just me waking up. She wakes up, she goes watches her cartoons in the living room. I drink my coffee and I clean up a little bit, not too much. Because sometimes like the kids like, come over here, see what I did. She's I don't know, she's pretty calm, I would say. She's not a problematic. She's a little problematic, but like that goes for like I guess any child.
Yeah,
Like when you're
any 4-year-old would be a little problematic.
yeah, they're like I think it's mostly because like I don't know if they're like hangry because like she doesn't eat a lot. She's a very picky eater, but then she gets hangry. Like she's hungry, she's angry. She wants her milk. Like we had to like we buy so many bottles like jugs of milk so she can drink it.
She has a milk addiction.
Yeah, like literally when she wants to go to sleep, she wants her milk. So like what I do is just like get her a cup of milk and just give it to her, and then yeah, no, she mostly drinks milk, even though she's supposed to be like eating like actual food. Try to get her to eat actual food, but like it's hard. Like she wants to stay on milk.
So does financial stress ever make it difficult for you to fully concentrate on your coursework?
Uh, Not really, because I still have like the small bit amount of money from FAFSA to like pay for my textbooks and whatever. But like I know that's not gonna like last forever, so that's why I'm trying to find a job that can like work with my schedule. So like I still have like that small safety net, but like I still get a little worried, like, okay, I need to stay under this amount of my paycheck and whatever. So like it stresses me out a little bit, but not as much as if like I had like, no safety net. So like at the moment, no, it's not stressing me out. But I would imagine it would like eventually it will come to a point I will be stressing out.
You're not getting student loans.
No, no student loans. I heard terrible things about those. I'm not taking one, even if I was on the brink of death. That's a no for me.
That's extreme. I think if you're on the brink of death, you should reconsider.
Yeah, no, I don't like being in debt. Like I think I mentioned like I have my credit card. It's almost maxed out, but like literally it's only $500. So like I have the safety net in my so like if I wanted to I can pay it off completely, but I don't want to like completely pay it off because I know I'm irresponsible and I'll just max it out again. So like I'll just keep it like consistently like close to the limit. so that I'm not tempted to like think like, oh, I can just use it. Like, no, no, no. I need to like somehow keep like a rein on it. And like I think I can increase the limit, but I'm not going to because otherwise I'm gonna go ham on that credit card. So I'm just trying not to use it.
It's hard when you're not living on that much. If you
Yeah.
have a credit card with a higher limit, then it's very tantalizing.
Yes, that's why I don't like ask for it to be raised. It's like right now it's like $500. I think I mentioned that, but yeah, it's not a lot, but like it's a decent amount of money. So like I'm not touching that unless I like absolutely have to. Cause like when I first started out working in fast food before we moved, I was getting like $400 like every paycheck because like I worked a little bit more, and like that was like a good amount for me to like spend things. So like I started like buying like myself like proper things. Like the in that time period, like I got myself some like anime figurines that are worth like a few hundred, some of them less. I think my most expensive figurine to date is $400.
Did you buy it for 400?
Uh, I think so. I literally, I got my paycheck and I bought it. I'm like, it was like limited edition of this one video game series I liked. So like, I had to have it.
Were you like food, anime, figurine, food, and then you chose the anime?
Yeah, cause like,
That's good. You got to get something you really wanted.
yeah, and then like, oh, I remember with that anime figurine, um, the USPS person or the person, the carrier, the deliverer person, they put it at the wrong house. So when it said delivered and it wasn't at my apartment, I was like sobbing to my mother, like mother, the UPS person lost my package. It was $400. I was waiting for this. I was so distraught and sad. But then they brought it back the next day. I'm like, yay! And I also had my textbook from my Japanese class as well. So like I would have been like screwed over if I didn't get my package because then like, I would have no textbook for class either. I'm like, dang.
So the next section is about education. Can you tell me a little about your educational journey from high school to the present?
Um, so the high school I went to, it's like I think the number one in the area. So I felt like a little don't know what's like the proper word for like push, like encouraged to go to like Ivy League and whatever, because like supposedly like all these schools wanted students from that particular high school, and I don't know, like that felt so pretentious. Like this high school is so full of themselves. Like, yeah, we might be number one in the area, and but like, does that really mean much in like the context of the entire United States? So like, I don't know. Everyone, the faculty there, or at least like the principal or vice principal at the time, I don't know. I felt like I understand they want us to go into like prestigious like Ivy Leagues and whatever, but like I don't know, they felt a little too pretentious for me. But
What
like
was the high school?
it was West Campus High School.
And what neighborhood is that in?
Uh, so like 58?
So when they say
Where-
in the area, did they mean Sacramento broadly?
No, like 58th, and then like I think Richard's right here. I don't know if that makes sense. It's kind of hidden. That's why it's like inside the neighborhood. There's the high school's right here. There is a McDonald's right here. Across it, there will be I think it's the Foods Co. And then over here is like Rite Aid. Like I know that I can only describe it, but yeah.
It's a public school?
Uh, I'm not sure it will be considered public school. Like I had to like apply there, and then I was put on like a lottery kind of thing to be like enrolled because they only allow like 200 students each year because it's a small school. Like it can't house any more than like I would say 900 students. So it has to be kind of selective. And I had to ask like for two recommendations from that. No, wait. I think it was three recommendations from faculty. So like it had to be my English teacher, my history teacher, and then just someone else. At that time, thankfully, I was like going to like this like little club. I just because I wanted to, right? And then the counselor, she's a very nice lady. She ran it, and then I got close to her, so I was able to get her as a recommendation. And then like I think, as I mentioned earlier, I think my whole first communion thing, so I was able to put like attending church for like 2 years or something. So I put that in and I got accepted, probably because like I live nearby, I have church, dream recommendations, my grades were good, so like that I'm guessing that's why I got accepted.
You started there in the ninth grade?
Yeah, I started in the ninth grade there. The school, the history, as far as I know, it was originally a part of Hiram Johnson, and supposedly that's where they sent all their smart students or something. I don't really know. But yeah, it was originally a part of Hiram Johnson and then it broke off somewhere in the early 2000s. Now it's just kind of does its own thing. So yeah, it's like selective about the students that attend there.
So how well did you do in high school?
Huh?
How well did you do?
How well?
Yeah, like how well in your classes?
I consistently have like a 3.6, 3.8. So like not too bad, but not, too good. Guess just average.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so why? Why do you think you can't be a forensic pathologist?
I don't. All I did was like I remember memorize things. I don't think I did well on the test. Like I was consistently between like 70 to 80% because I'm not a good like test taker. And the only thing I ever the only knowledge like I retained from there was like random history facts. So like I don't think like in the long term, I don't think I can just keep up with all the information about the different diseases and the specifics for like that's the schooling the 10 years. Like I don't think that's gonna work for me. Like I think I'm better doing just hands-on things. Like it's easier to like get into the repetition and just like knowing what to do. I just don't really like using my brain for like I think medical things is all really.
Okay, I kind of interrupted you. Okay, more about your high school experience.
I didn't really care about high school, honestly. I was just there, then I left. The only thing I stayed for was the anime club. So like freshman year, I attended and whatever. Then sophomore, junior year, and then I guess senior year. But senior year, I don't know if that counts because COVID. I was the secretary, so I wasn't the president. So I just kept like the club running like with all the paperwork and whatever. I like submitted like whatever paperwork to the ASB student body whatever. And then we were called officers, like people like leading the club. So we just did like small things, anime related, really just like anime Jeopardy or like watch episodes of anime, or we would just whatever we could do, just as long as they're related to anime, basically. So I helped run that. And I just didn't really care for like anything else that the school had to offer, like sports. Like I thought about doing a sport, but I was like, yeah, no, I'm not athletic enough to do that. Like strong enough, maybe, but like athletic, I don't think I would been able. I'm too lazy.
So why do you think you didn't care about anything else at the school?
Uh, I don't know. It's just all this place to like. I just get my education, go in, out, be done with. Like I didn't really felt connected to like the student body or like I outside of my friend group. I just didn't feel like there was a need for me to like be like a part of like the school's community like properly. It's just I don't know. I think it was also because one of my first encounters with like the upperclassmen, she was like, because like we had like the school's rallies or whatever, and like the classes they're like ranked, they go into like this little competition. My first encounter with like the upperclassmen, they were like, "Oh, you're gonna care once your like class is always losing or whatever," and like I didn't like that. Like that. Oh, I'm eventually gonna have to care. Like, but like I never did in the end. It's just like, why should I care? I just didn't feel like it doesn't. It's just a small school event. It's school spirit, yay, I guess. Or like, I don't know. I'm just like more someone who's like low key, I guess. I just don't like exciting, like fast paced things. Just wanna, I don't know, like wanna slow down, just take in things, the small things. Not, I don't know. I just like doing things slowly. I just, I don't know, like the competitions were always like fast paced, like, oh, we have to win, and I'm just here like, okay.
Well, I can sympathize with that. Never got too invested in school sports.
Yeah. And then
Never really cared who won.
yeah, me neither. It's just like, and then like when the class would win and like everyone would run down, I'm just like, oh, I should run down too. And I never really liked the school rallies either because they were like really overwhelming. Like I was never one for like loud spaces unless it's like something I can control. Like, like loud rock music or whatever music. If I can control it, it's fine. But like if it's like something out of my control, it wasn't fine. It's so loud. I think there was one occasion where it was like so loud and just overwhelming for me that I like started to cry. And I had to run out so like nobody could see me like asking what's wrong. Like how do I explain like I'm overwhelmed by all the noise? And then I just kind of had to like deal with that because it didn't occur to me like until I graduated that oh I could have just hid in the bathroom or like stayed in the classroom. I just felt like I had to go because it didn't it doesn't occur to me like oh I can just skip I can just yeah. But yeah, so I did not like going to rallies.
What was your school? Like, what was the racial and ethnic makeup of your school?
British, it's like I would say 50%, not 50%. It was so like the for context, like all my other schools, like my elementary school, like as I said, like 80-90% Asian, right? With a handful of Mexican kids and then like really small portion of everything else. Then my middle school, it was like three ways. There was the Mexicans, the black kids, and then the Asian kids. So like I think literally in my middle school, I think I knew like I can count all the white people I knew like on my hand. Like there wasn't a lot of white people there. So then high school, I go there and then I just see a lot of white people and I'm like a little like weirded out because like it's like the first time I've seen so many white people like in one place really because I'm just used to like seeing like the groups of like Mexicans, the black people, the Asians, right? So I'm just like used to like that kind of thing, just like being very diverse. So I just felt like this is kind of weird, but even though like I'm visibly white, I don't look Hispanic. So like I think I would have like technically blended in, but I don't know. Like I'm just so used to being like around my group of friends that are like all Asian. I'm just used to being with them in particular, or even with like the other Mexicans. Even though I wasn't very close to them, I can just like always be like, "Yo, what's up? And did you like the carnes?" I don't know, just Mexican things, right? It was just kind of weird. Just yeah.
Did you have any like problematic experiences with now you're in a school with so many white students? Like, did they say anything that was insensitive or?
Well, again, I wasn't very invested in school, so I was like very much a loner. So I didn't really interact with the students, and because the school was like really selective, most of the students they're like, I don't think they would, or at least in my opinion, they wouldn't like do such a thing, or at least my class in particular, because then like my school went on the news because the black vice principal was targeted for actual racism, and it was like just so bizarre to see. Honestly, it's like because like you generally like the faculty, like teachers would always like, oh, the students here are so nice. They're so polite. Like you can literally leave like your backpack there and no one would steal it. That was the kind of school it was like. There was not much like problematic things to begin with. But then like I think we had this substitute teacher that was like, I'm always racing to be a substitute at this school because the kids are like all nice, they're all right. And then they would say like how like at other schools there would be like fights and whatever. And then the other teachers they would have meetings with like the teachers like from the other schools and they would be surprised that like the kids are like getting into fights. So like I would say like it's like sanitized. You know what I mean? Like all the kids are good, goody two shoes, smart, whatever. I think that's why I also thought it was kind of pretentious, because like they had this ideal view of the students. But yeah, so but yeah, I personally I didn't have any problems with anybody else, mostly because I was a loner.
Were there queer students at the school that were open and out?
I would say so. We had a what was it called, the GSA thing. I went to it for like the first few weeks, but then I stopped. And then I never went back to it because I didn't want to be known as the kid who like left the GSA or whatever. They're like, yeah, so but yeah, I stopped going to the GSA. And then like anytime I wanted to like attend like something at lunch, like a club, I forgot. So like so I guess to like properly answer the question, like yeah, there was like queer students who were like out. There was like one known queer student. They were trans. Like everybody knew about them. They were like, yeah, they're trans. Yeah, and blah blah blah. So like, yeah. Although I will say, some people like the only reason why anyone was ever disliked was mostly because of personality, if anything. Because like every time I heard somebody was like bad mouthing like another student, it was ultimately because they were not very pleasant to talk to, regardless if they were queer or not. Because I can count like two people, one queer, the other one not, but both of them unpleasant personalities.
So were your classes inclusive of queer and trans topics?
I don't think so. It was just I like history in particular. We didn't really go for it because what did I have in 8th grade? I had geography, so it was more focused on like the stories of people who were like living in the countries, so not necessarily like queer stories. Then 10th grade, I had advanced world history, so it was just shoving in as much history as you could. Like you really couldn't like go into like a specific person's or like so it was like the general history of that time period, and history is pretty massive. So like it was like summaries of what happened in each era. And then what was it? Junior year, roughly a little bit almost when COVID happened. That I had AP US history. It's from the beginning of the states, but we never went into like queer topics really. I don't really remember much other than like there was a bunch of rebellions, but like they happened. Then what else? Something about voting. How like the mobsters or something they were like doing fake votes. That's all I really remember from the top of my head. But nothing stands out as queer. And in my other classes, it was just strictly to just that subjects, so like math, just purely math. I had physics. I didn't like that class, but it was like always about like the concepts and whatever. Like literature, it was my teacher. She really liked it, like the war history. I just now realizing.
Your literature teacher.
Yeah, she okay. So freshman year, uh, it's whatever. But then like I had the same teacher for like the 9th and 10th grade, and I remember ninth. I don't really remember which year was which, but I remember when one we went over the Vietnam War, and then the other one it was World War II, specifically about the Jewish. Like we read this book about this kid who was Jewish, and then his friend who was also Jewish, but like the Yiddish community. I think that's how you pronounce it. I don't know. I'm not too sure. It was a book about that, and then yeah, but yeah, it's just mostly war. Now that I think about it, don't know why, but it was just that. I don't think we ever like touched queer topics really.
Did you have any like particularly negative experiences or positive experiences in high school around your queerness?
My queerness. I wasn't explicitly out, I think. I think like only to like the other students who I knew were queer, like they knew I was queer. Like I don't think I ever like formally came out, but like you can but like I think they just picked up the vibe, like after I talked for some time, I'm like, oh, that girl's so pretty. I'm like, oh yeah, me too. It's just kind of like that. But uh, but like in terms of my queerness and school environment, I wasn't that out. I was just kind of like not like a loner-ish kind of person. So
You didn't want to share stuff about yourself with other students or teachers.
no, it's more like I didn't talk to people, but then like in class when we had to like explain parts of ourselves, I was always so extra about it. Like specifically, like my parents' divorce was, as I mentioned, just like messy, whatever, right? So I was like always like, oh my god, my dad, he's a bad guy. Because I was still so salty about it. I'm still a little bit salty, but not as salty as a high schooler. That's yeah, no, I made my whole entire personality that I was like I didn't have a dad.
Okay, so what's been your experience so far in college? Have you had classes that either include queer and trans topics?
Um, the only thing that comes up to mind that would like be relevant to that would be like my anthropology classes. I've taken just two. One of them was just the biology one, biological anthropology, whatever. That went into the specifics about the evolution of humans, I think. I also took cultural anthropology, but like I took that literally my first year here, so I don't really remember much. But I imagine I would have went over it a little bit, but I can't be too exact. I do remember it was briefly mentioned in this child psychology class I took because I wanted to like understand my sister, the baby, a little bit better. So like I took that class. It's like okay, so like development. I don't and like they briefly went over it in the I think the puberty part because like it because it mentions like the all the life stages that a human can go through, like infancy, being toddler, being small kid and big kid and teenager. I think like in the teenager part of it, like it briefly went over it, like being queer and whatever, but like just then and there.
So your experience has been when queer topics have been brought up, it's been primarily sort of not very in depth.
Yeah, no, not very in depth. But I think it's probably because like the course it's not designed for that. I guess like it wants to shove as much as like the topic as possible. So like they will probably only mention it if it's like relevant enough. So like with the child psychology, it was only relevant because children both they go through like the phases where they're questioning their identity and such. So they thought it was relevant to include that information.
What about have you taken classes that are inclusive of the like Mexican American experience, Latina experience in general?
I don't really hear much about that honestly. So I don't really go looking for it. Oh, I did. Oh, I just remember something about my culture anthropology class. I think they mentioned the like in Latino America, and I think yeah, I don't remember they have something like the third gender. I forget the name for it. It was like Muse. I don't really remember, but like it briefly mentioned the third gender. I just remember that right now, but that's it for that part. Specifically for about Latinos though. Um, yeah, I don't think I've taken a class where like it went over that. Like I think just like the general history, like in my cultural anthropology, like just like the general history, just a little bit in that. But like that's the only other relevant thing I can think of would be in my one of my funeral classes. Like there was like a prerequisite for like if you want to enter the funeral service program, you have to take this one specific class. I forget the name, but like it's going over funeral traditions, and I think it went over the Inca, and then I think one other indigenous thing. I think nothing funeral rites and whatever, but like it's very brief because it's not very well known about. I think
So, what about like history and English classes or sociology classes? Have you taken any of those?
I took one history class. It was during the summer, and we didn't really go because it was like summer classes are like really fast paced. The only thing I remember was something about the railroad and the indigenous. There's probably like and black rights. because you know that's a big thing throughout American history, Black rights. Uh, I can't remember anything else really. Mostly because it was really fast paced and I was trying to shove as much information down. And
Oh, go ahead.
English class, I don't think we went over much there either. I do remember the teacher wanted us to read a book about this black woman. Well, I think she was mixed because she was like, it mentioned like in the book that her mom was white. But that's like the only thing we had to read, but even I didn't like fully read it. But that, like, I remember that we did have to read it though, it's just a little bit, yeah. Oh, and I think there was like something about the Chicano culture in that English class as well. I do remember like I kind of resonated with like the Chicano thing, but like I'm not really fully immersive with like my Hispanic identity, honestly. So like it's I kind of resonated, but kind of not. Just like I don't know. I feel like I'm like an outsider just viewing the culture, if that makes sense.
So one thing I found is that there are a lot of classes that could cover queer topics
Mm-hmm.
in more depth, as well as like the Latinx experience, right, and so on in more depth. But generally, it's hard to find classes that do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because professors are always making choices about, even if you have a lot to cover, there are certain topics that you can go into in more depth if you choose to as a professor, right? You do have some freedom to do that. So I guess upon reflection, I don't know, how does it feel to you to sort of, you were going over all of this, like taking all of these classes, and like, how does it feel that you haven't really taken classes that have talked about the queer experience very much at all, or the Latina experience much at all? Like, I know you said you don't feel really immersed in your culture as Mexican American, but like upon reflection, does it make you feel like something about the kind of almost near absence or even the exclusion of these topics from the curriculum?
Well, I just like scared from like understanding like there's so many things to cover and so little time. I just like I don't really feel much about it, I guess. Although I think it would have been, I mean, it would have been nice to like learn about it a little bit more because I sometimes I get a little like maybe I should learn a little bit more about my culture and you know just try to connect to it even though I'm technically like an outsider, like trying to zoom in on the cultural details and whatever. I was, I guess I kind of just was. I like that it was like really talked over though, even though there was like there wasn't much of a focus. I think my English teacher, she probably like I think she did like try to get us to like connect to the culture because I remember there was like a bit about this woman who was like dealing with depression and she was like Asian. I forget if it was like Chinese or Japanese, Korean. It's one of those three. It's always one of those three. Um, yeah, and so she was like trying to like put different perspectives out there for the students to relate to. So like I think that's probably the only class where like it kind of the teacher did try to make an effort to like try to teach about the more marginalized communities. But with my other classes, I don't think there's been as maybe not as much leeway or like effort. I don't really know to like try to include them.
So if you could, would you be interested in taking a class that focuses on queerness and transness?
I think I would like to. Although, I remember there's like a group chat of sorts for my funeral service class, and it was like briefly mentioned. Like there was like a women's history, and I remember like I was like lamenting the fact that I was taking regular U.S. history over women's history, cause the time to like apply for classes it was like already over. So like I'm like oh dang I could have taken that class instead, cause like I really have like a general idea about U.S. history, but I forget. So like I just took it to like have a refresher. But like, had I known about the class sooner, I probably would have taken it. At this point, though, I think I might just focus like mostly just on my funeral service classes. So cause this is a lot of information. I just want to have as much time as I can to like review the material so I can pass the national exams.
Yeah, you basically through your general ed requirements, and
Oh yeah,
you're focusing on your major stuff.
yeah, I already fulfilled them all. Or at least I'm pretty sure I did. I probably need to talk to a counselor about that. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I did fulfill all my general ed.
I can imagine that in those classes there could be some stuff about queerness, so how to serve queer families and make sure that trans, like people who are queer or trans who have passed away, right? So how do you kind of make sure you're kind of serving them and their families in a way that's sensitive?
Yeah, so the teachers themselves don't bring it up because like I don't think we like gone like in depth really, or at least like not yet because like still class is still ongoing. Um, but like my classmates they're always asking questions, and as a good portion of them are queer, and some of them are like different like nationalities. They're always like asking questions like, oh, how can I service the queer community, or how can I service this particular culture community. So like I don't know, it's kind of like nice to say. Like I think one classmate, like we had to do this thing with like these funeral law cases. Okay, as I was saying, so one of my classmates, they did like a law case where this woman, she was working at a funeral home. I'm pretty sure it's a woman. I don't remember the specifics. Anyway, the point is they were trans. I'll just refer to them as trans because I'm not too sure if they were like identified as a man or a woman because I just remember they were trans. But anyways, they were trans, and like the funeral home, I guess they didn't really like that for whatever reason. So the trans person, they had to be like advocate for themselves. They brought it to court and all that jazz because like I think they had like some dress code thingy rule thing where like it was like, oh, you have to like dress to your like assigned gender or whatever. And the trans person, like, they're like, I think they came out. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they came out and they were like fully open, like because like they've been working there for a few years and they're like, okay, I need to come out. They did that. They started dressing as like the gender that like probably is not.
They're aligned with who
Yeah,
they were.
that the one that they identified with. Yeah, that. The funeral home was not too pleased, so they took it to court, and I think to the Supreme Court. And I think they got it so that like they can't, like in the funeral home at least, that like if you're working there you can't be discriminated for that. But like the whatever law was passed like specifically for that, I think the trans person, they died before that the law would be like finalized. That's kind of sad. Like they didn't get to see like the fruits of their efforts, but like at least anyone else like no other trans person, they shouldn't have to feel like they're like in a hostile environment. I don't know if I'm phrasing that right. Like legally there is some protection, technically.
Yeah, our funeral homes, I mean, I know they're often family businesses. I think they're becoming more corporate these days,
Oh
right?
yes, very.
Is there some conservatism to how they run their businesses that could kind of like you're describing this example of this trans employee who was discriminated against.
Yeah, I think a good portion of funeral homes are now actually corporate owned because I think there's this company SCI, I think. It's a Texas based company, corporation, whatever, right? They own I think like 60% of funeral homes, I think. So it's a good amount. And I think there's like some of the pros and cons to like working on that corporate funeral home versus like family owned. But I think in either case, like I think it doesn't matter like in terms of like being queer in funeral home, like it doesn't matter if it's corporate or family owned, because like it all very much depends on the people working there, like the bosses, managers. and all that. Cause like I remember I was applying. I like oh wait, I think it depends on like religion mostly. Like I tried to apply to this funeral home. It was Catholic based, and it was asking so many questions. And like I think one of the things it said like they had like Christian values to uphold, so they expected that from the people who were working with them. Like oh, we expect our employees to like uphold Christian values, and queer person, I technically don't uphold those Christian values because I'm queer, right? And it was like oh, and like literally went into like homosexuality is a sin, and then they lumped that with like other like more like worse offenses. I just remember like they're lumping homosexuality with this. But like I still applied anyways because like I wanted to get a job. I didn't hear back from them ultimately, probably because I'm not very Catholic to begin with. Because then it asked me about how many times I went to church and who was like the parish person or like who did I know like the per people whatever the people who work the church room and all that. And I'm just like I don't know who. And it was just very Christian like, application. But yeah, I think because like I responded so like like it's very obvious I'm not a Christian on that application, so they probably just threw my application in the trash. If anything, I did apply to another one, but then they were like, "Oh yeah, no, we're full. Thank you though." Like, but that one they didn't ask me about my religion or anything. I think it did ask me about my gender identity. Oddly enough. Like it had like this drop box and it like had all these genders. Like you can literally scroll down. Like it had male, female, woman, man. I don't remember. But then they had like demi boy, demi girl, agender, non-binary. And I'm like, dang, I didn't know these genders existed. And then I'm like, that was like the first time I actually had to put like a label. And I'm like, geez, what do I identify as? And then
That's
like
interesting because that's unusual, right? And that's
yeah,
usually a good sign. If somebody puts in the effort to create an inclusive list
yeah.
like that, that's usually a good sign, or one would hope.
Yeah. So I was like scrolling down and I'm like, I don't know which label fits me, but then I ultimately chose like demigender because like that fits the most. I feel like, and yeah, and then like I think for they also asked about sexuality. I don't know why these were even relevant questions, but like they were there. They had like straight, homosexual, lesbian, bisexual, pansexual, and then other. And I'm like, what should I put? I think I ended up putting prefer not to say because like I'm a romantic, so like ultimately I don't care. But yeah, it was like interesting to see that on an application when most of the time, like for like gender, it's just male, female, rarely non-binary, and then but more often prefer not to say.
Was that a family-owned business or was it that corporate
Um,
corporation?
I
Or some other
honestly
corporate?
don't know. It
Okay.
was East Lawn though. I don't know if they're corporate or family owned, but I do know they have like a branch here, Sacramento. That's where I do my involvements actually, like for my class. And then there's the one in Elk Grove. I only know that one exists because my wait, no, that's not my story to tell. But like, I know it exists. It's just somebody else told me it exists. Yeah.
So, what's been your experience in the classroom? So, even though you haven't had many classes that actually focus on queer and trans topics, have faculty done anything in courses that you have taken to make you feel included, to make you feel like you are comfortable that you belong? Anything in particular you can think of?
Maybe not like the actual teacher like teaching and whatever themselves, but I think just more so my classmates. Cause like, I don't know how we ever like just came to the conclusion that like a good portion of us were like queer, but like we somehow came to that conclusion. And I don't know, it's just like felt really nice just having like other queer classmates alongside with me to like, or at least like a good portion of the classmates being queer. Cause like cause like in the chat we're always joking about like, hey, queer content about us specifically.
And why did that feel good?
I don't know. I think it's cause majority of the time I'm like with like cis het people, right? It's not very often I'm like with queer people, I guess. Like the only people are my like childhood friends, but like they're just that's like five-ish people. Half the group just is queer. And then my online friends, but that's online. Like I can always like find like queer people easily more often, like online. But like in real life it's had a bit more difficult, I guess. Like every person for not every person, but like most of the people they're like cis het and with all that. So probably doesn't help that I don't talk to people often either. So that probably skews my perception.
Well, if you find people that you can identify with, and then you start chatting, and it feels easier to chat with them because you have the stuff in common, right?
Yeah.
Makes it easier to talk to.
Yeah.
So just to have more of a general question, but what have faculty done that, or what do you think faculty can do to help you personally motivate, like, motivate you to learn? Like, what motivates you to learn in the classroom, and what have faculty done to help you with your motivation?
To learn. I really don't know how to answer that question. It's just go in there, I learn, and I leave. I do like it when like teachers do make it like more, what is it, hands-on or like more interactive. Like my teacher, she did this thing where we had to pretend to be like in my funeral class specifically. We were given like this paper because like at some point eventually we're gonna have to take like on call calls. I don't know.
Like,
Basically.
you're going to be on call to
Like
help with embalming or something, or other stuff.
like you'll get a call that someone has like recently passed away, and you need to navigate how to fill out the paperwork, like to figure out the name of the person, the next of kin, their social security number, if they're available to be transferred to the funeral home, things like that. So the teacher had us practice us doing that, and we do like funny scenarios. Well, it's not supposed to be funny. It's supposed to be like a serious thing. But I just remember it was like really funny because we had to like come up with the things on the spot. So like I think my classmates, hers was that John. No, that wasn't John. It was a Jane Doe. I think it was like a reference to like a musical or something. And then it was kind of implied that that her person was a vampire. And then there was like just like this joke of that she was like the dealer or whatever. And I'm just here like, okay, my person is this fictional character from this game. And then I had to like because you can have phones out in class, so I had to pull out like the character page and be like, okay, this is how you spell their name and all that. Then I had to be like,
just, you like that because it was interactive, it was creative,
yeah,
it was kind of fun.
Yeah, it was
really. And you were learning as you were doing it.
Yeah, technically, even though it's supposed to be like in real life, it's going to be really serious. You're going to be dealing with someone who's like actively mourning and like in grief. So yeah, I got something out of it, but like maybe not in the way it should have been since it was like really funny and
well, I can imagine in funeral services everything can be very depressing, so you have to bring some levity to the situation sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, and then what is it called? There's like this gurney in the classroom, so you can take it out. So the teacher wants us to like, if we have to like physically be like in the car to go transfer the deceased to the funeral home, we need to be prepared for like how the body's gonna be positioned. So we have we have the option of like positioning the body however we wanted. So classmates would just like move the body. It's not an actual body. It's like this big giant mannequin, and it was supposed to weigh as the average person. So they were like putting it in like weird positions, like around like not the campus, but like in the small area that we were in. So like it was a little funny because like even though it shouldn't be. So we had to like somehow maneuver the body back onto the gurney and then like lift it up because it's really heavy. So like we had to like slowly lift up the gurney thing, then just move it.
Hmm. So anything else you can think of that you've liked? Like how a professor has run their class or activities that they've thought of that have made you feel more invested in the class?
The only other things I can think of are like all from high school, and like everything's gonna be like high school setting, whatever. But I really liked it whenever like the teacher would have like a Jeopardy or like a Kahoot. So like I actively have to like know the knowledge on the spot, and like everybody's competitive with each other. So like it's more like casual, more carefree. Like I don't think mostly on part because like it's on the most of the classes I've taken they were like online. So like the most we did was just online discussions.
So not that much creativity there.
Yeah, no. Uh, the most creative thing I had to do was again for funeral class where I had to make like a memorial for a character. Well, not a character. It could have been anyone. Some of my classmates did like their relatives, whatever. I did mine from the fictional character. So like what I did is I just like I drew out the things. So like I drew out like the like this flower that's associated with the character, their food, their favorite food, then like ultimately the portrait, and then I like taped it onto like a water bottle and a bunch of other things so that it can look like a proper, well not proper, but like a semblance of a memorial. So yeah,
That's creative.
yeah, it was really fun too. Like I just liked coloring, and I did my fiction one of my favorite characters. So
So how do you do in your classes, like, in terms of grades and
right,
yeah?
I think I'm pretty average, honestly.
What do you mean when you say that?
Like B's, you know? Like I put in the effort to do like the discussions, even though like I generally do everything like last minute. So sometimes I have like the late penalty. So like I would get like sometimes like the like full points, but then because of the late penalty it drops down. But like in the end I don't think the only class I have ever failed was one where I didn't actually put any effort into.
And what happened in that class that you ended up failing? Like why didn't you put
Oh.
effort into
So what was happening was that it was the same time as my history class, and then there was this one other funeral class, and like it was just like really like an elective class. I wanted to do it for fun, so because I knew it was like for fun, I felt like I could like slack off a little bit. And then there's like we had to do like a project on like this program, and I wasn't just doing very well on the program itself. So like I spent so many hours trying to figure out what the problem was, only to figure it out like way later than when I had to turn it in. But like because I wasn't able to figure out the problem, I just felt so demotivated, and I was just like I just rather not do that. So I ended up just basically like not doing the assignments and all that.
Did you seek the help of the professor?
I did, but then like I don't. I just let him know that I was going to be like late in turning it in, and then I asked my classmates for help, but ultimately it didn't help. I had to ask one of my funeral classmates actually, because like one of my classmates, she knew she had a friend uh who did things right. Um, then I was like talking to like a bunch of other people trying to figure out the problem, and then it was just one of them had the answer, and I'm like okay, but that was too late, so like I can't turn it in. They're like okay. Because like it was like way past the point where like even if I turn it in, I would probably get a 0 on it because of how late it was. So yeah.
Okay, I think maybe I realize it's getting late, so let me just ask you a couple more questions. So, is there anything you can think of that the college could do to make trans and queer students feel more included on campus in general?
Now that's a hard question because like as I said, in high school I wasn't too invested. And even right now I'm not like too invested in like the college community, like the actual community, like interacting with other students. All that often really. Like I remember I saw a poster about like a lavender prom. And I thought about like, oh, that's cool. I don't like dances, so I'm not gonna go.
There's a GSA at ARC. Have you heard of it?
Nope.
I think a bunch of the students are into video games too and
Mm.
anime. Well, maybe I don't know. So there could be overlap in.
Yeah. I do see like posters about like a bunch of like various things, but they don't contain all the information. And I don't know how to navigate the school's website all that well, so I don't even know what kind of clubs we have.
Mm.
Like I don't know like I mean it probably exists like like video game club and like the GSA, but like I literally don't know like what we have.
So maybe it's like one thing is that it feels hard to find information,
Yeah, kind
and maybe that information should be broadcast more broadly.
yeah. I don't even know if we even have like Club Rush actually. Like I remember it was like briefly mentioned, but like I don't know if we like have one this year. I'm just like very much just not involved.
You're here. What are we in the fall? You're going to be here through the spring.
Like whichever campus. I have
Not
my,
here. I mean, our ARC.
like I have my like I quote unquote graduate next year, December. So yeah, I just still have like one more year left technically.
Okay, so you have a little while.
Yeah.
So you can't think of anything in particular aside from maybe just doing a better job disseminating information about events and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I really have like no idea what's going on. Like the most of the time I get it from like the little like email that the school sends out. Sometimes I check it, sometimes I don't. The ones that I actually check are usually like in terms about like job opportunities. Then like I just don't really give it a second thought because like most of the time the job opportunities and internships they're like not relevant to my major at all. So I'm like, that's cool, but I can't do that.
Um, okay, actually, maybe my final question
Mhm.
is well, two more questions.
Mm.
What makes you excited? Or, like, what are you excited about the most when you think about your future?
About having a proper job, because like I don't know. I just want to be able to like I want to be able to like move out, have my own space, and not have to like deal with my family. Like even though like I love them, I just want to be by myself like properly. Cause like in middle school, like I feel like that was like my most ideal time. Cause that at, during my middle school years, like all I did was just go to school. Class was easy, so I finished homework really easily, and then all I did was just be in my bed, reading, whatever. And I just kind of miss that kind of freedom, just being able to just not really care about anything other.
Some independence and alone time to pursue your own interests.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else you'd like to add or questions you'd like to return to?
No, my brain's kind of blanking on that, so yeah, no.
Okay, well, if you think of anything, we'll come back. All right, thank you.